Let's be brutally honest. Your failure wasn't an event. It was a verdict. In that sterile, overlit room, you weren't just rejected. You were dismantled, piece by agonizing piece, under the cold, analytical gaze of people who had already calculated your insignificance. You thought you were there to present a future. They saw you as a momentary distraction, a brief and forgettable line item on their afternoon agenda. The humiliation wasn't in the no. It was in the silence that followed. A silence so heavy, so dense with condescension, it felt like a physical weight pressing down on your chest, crushing your lungs. You stammered. The numbers on your slides blurred. The confidence you had rehearsed for weeks evaporated under the heat of their indifference, leaving behind the raw, trembling nerve of your own inadequacy. She didn't just turn you down, she unmade you. The woman at the head of the table, the one whose approval you craved like a drug, didn't even grant you the dignity of a direct rejection. It was a subtle shift in her posture, a glance at her watch, a quiet word to her associate. These were not business decisions. They were acts of social execution. She held up a mirror, not to your business plan, but to your very core, and what she showed you was a fraud. The world didn't just see you fail, they watched you break. And in the age of digital permanence, that moment was captured, clipped, and shared. Your public execution went viral. Your moment of absolute vulnerability became a meme, a cautionary tale whispered in circles you would never be invited into. They didn't just laugh you out of the room, they exiled you from the game itself. The old strategists, the true masters of power, understood a fundamental truth you had yet to learn. Perception is not a component of the battle. It is the battle. And you had lost it before you even spoke your first word. You walked in seeking validation, hoping your passion would be contagious. You offered vulnerability as a sign of authenticity. But in the real world, the world of consequence and power, vulnerability is not a strength. It is a tactical error. It is an open flank, an undefended position that your enemy will not only exploit, but will use as the very point of entry to shatter your entire formation. You showed them your heart, and they showed you it was a target. You bled passion, and they smelled blood in the water. This is the first and final lesson of power. The battlefield is emotional, and the person who controls the frame controls the reality. You didn't control the frame. You were barely a character in the scene she was directing. But what if that public execution wasn't an end? What if it was a baptism by fire, a brutal but necessary forging of a new kind of weapon? What if the shame, the helplessness, the burning memory of her dismissive gaze could be repurposed? Not into a scar to be hidden, but into the very raw material for a new kind of armor, a new kind of blade. The world has taught you a painful lesson. The playbook you were given, the one about earnestness, hard work, and good intentions, is a lie. It's a rulebook designed by the powerful to keep the powerless predictable and easy to manage. The secret to regaining control isn't in recovering from the blow. It's not in healing or finding closure. The secret is in understanding the architecture of the weapon that was used against you, and then building a better one. A weapon of pure, cold, calculated psychology. A weapon that operates not with force, but with finesse. A weapon that dismantles another person's reality before they even realize a battle has begun. This is the path forward. Not a path of recovery, but a path of reinvention. The complete and total purging of the vulnerable man who was executed in that room, and the birth of something far more formidable. If this feeling of being powerless resonates deep in your bones, if you have ever been publicly dismantled, emotionally dissected, or silently dismissed by someone holding all the cards, then you have found your war room. This is not a place for consolation. It is a training ground. Subscribe to Psychological Dominion. Activate all notifications so you never miss a strategic briefing, and press the like button to declare that you are finished being a pawn in someone else's game. And in the comments below, I want to know where you are watching this from. Let's see how far the new doctrine is spreading across the map. The journey begins with a single, brutal realization. You lost because you were playing the wrong game. You brought a heartfelt speech to a knife fight. You were focused on the content of your words, while they were focused on the subtext of your power, or lack thereof. The pitch, the date, the negotiation. These are all just theaters for the real conflict, which is always the silent, invisible war for psychological dominance. The one who sets the frame, who defines the terms of the interaction, is the one who wins. She made you feel small because you allowed her reality, her frame, to become your own. You accepted the role of the supplicant, the hopeful inferior, seeking the approval of a superior. You lost the moment you accepted that frame. From this moment forward, your single-minded obsession must be the mastery of frame control. It is the art of subtly, almost invisibly imposing your reality onto the interaction. It's not about being louder or more aggressive. That is the clumsy work of amateurs. This is about being smarter. It's about understanding the hidden currents of human insecurity, ego, and desire. It's about learning that the right question, delivered at the right moment, is more powerful than any statement. A statement can be argued with, but a well-crafted question forces the other person's mind to work for you. It bypasses their conscious defenses and targets their subconscious programming, forcing them to justify themselves, to resolve an internal contradiction, to cede psychological ground without even knowing they've done so. Think of it this way. Every social interaction is a delicate structure of assumptions and unspoken rules. You have been conditioned to respect that structure. The master of psychological influence learns to see the stress points, the load-bearing walls of another person's ego, and with a single, perfectly placed question, they can introduce a fracture, a tiny hairline crack in their composure that will, under the right pressure, spread until their entire social armor shatters. This is not about being liked. It is about being respected, and real respect, the kind that endures, is not born from affection. It is a byproduct of perceived power. It is a cold, hard currency earned through the calculated demonstration of psychological dominance. The man who was laughed out of the room will be forgotten, but the man who can walk into any room and, with a few quiet words, subtly reshape the reality of everyone in it, that man becomes a legend. He becomes a force of nature. He is no longer the subject of the story. He is the author. And this is the transformation we are about to begin. The creation of a playbook, a precise arsenal of 10 questions, each one engineered to crack a specific type of social armor and give you absolute control of the narrative. Your humiliation was your origin story. Now let's write the next chapter. Let's be clear. That public execution, that moment of searing humiliation you endured, was not the cause of your defeat. It was the symptom. It was the spectacular, explosive finale to a war you had already lost long before. In a series of silent, unremembered skirmishes you didn't even know you were fighting. Your authority was not taken from you in that boardroom. You bled it out, drop by drop, in 1,000 quiet moments of concession, hesitation, and fear. You think you lost because your pitch was weak. The truth is, your pitch was weak because you had already lost yourself. This is the cold deconstruction of your fall. This is the autopsy of your power. The process begins not with a bang, but with a whisper. It begins with the first emotional concession. You have been trained by society to believe that empathy, sensitivity, and a willingness to yield are virtues. They are, but only when deployed from a position of unshakable strength. When deployed from a position of neediness, they are liabilities. They are tactical blunders. It starts simply. She's in a bad mood. A sigh. A clipped response, a subtle shift in her energy. The air grows cold. Your programming kicks in. Your immediate instinctual response is to fix it. You see her emotional discomfort as a problem you are required to solve. You approach her, your voice softened with concern. What's wrong? Did I do something? In that moment, you have handed her the frame. You have just communicated that her emotional state dictates your reality. You have made her the sun, and you have willingly become a planet orbiting her. Your own climate depended on her light and warmth. She tested. You yielded. She won. She may not have even done it consciously. It doesn't matter. The subconscious mind, hers and yours, registered the transaction. You ceded territory. You showed her that a simple change in her mood could command your full attention and trigger a response of anxious service. This is the first hairline fracture in your armor. From that first concession, the decay accelerates. You lose control of the narrative. Every interaction becomes a negotiation from a weaker position. She says, "You're always working." You were taught to see this as a complaint to be addressed, so you defend yourself. "I have to work. It's for us, for our future." You are playing her game. The real issue is not your work. The subtext is a power play. The statement, "You're always working," is a frame that positions her as the neglected victim and you as the perpetrator. By defending your actions within her frame, you validate it. The powerful response, the frame-holding response, is not to defend, but to redefine. To absorb her statement and recontextualize it within your reality, your mission. But you don't do that. You argue, you justify, you plead. You are a defendant in her court, abiding by her laws. This is the second stage, the complete loss of frame control. It metastasizes. Your ambition becomes selfishness. Your need for solitude becomes rejection. Your standards become unreasonable. And with every defense you mount, you dig your own trench deeper inside her territory. This leads directly to the third stage, the desperate, soul-crushing quest for validation. You have forgotten what it feels like to operate from your own center of gravity. Your self-worth is now outsourced. It is a commodity that she controls, and she can grant it or withhold it at will. So you begin to perform. You buy the flowers, not from a place of genuine affection, but as a desperate plea for a ceasefire. You agree to go to the event you despise, not as a compromise, but as a payment for a few hours of peace. You start measuring your words, walking on eggshells, filtering your own thoughts and personality to present a version of yourself that is less likely to be judged, less likely to cause a disruption in her emotional state. You are no longer a man. You are an applicant, constantly interviewing for the position of being acceptable in your own home. Your life is no longer about your purpose. It's about managing her perception of you. This is the birth of true affective dependency. Your emotional well-being is no longer generated from within. It is a reflection of her approval. If you recognize this slow, silent bleeding of power in your own life, if you feel the cold truth of this diagnosis in your bones, then you need to cauterize the wound right now. Subscribe to Psychological Dominion. Arm yourself by activating all notifications so you never miss a strategic deployment, and hit the like button as a first declaration of war against the weakness that has been programmed into you. And answer this in the comments. What was the one small concession you made that you now realize was the beginning of a major defeat? Let's map out the enemy's tactics together. The final stage is the complete collapse, the breaking of the silence. But it is not a roar of defiance, it is the whimper of surrender. You have become so dependent on her validation that her silence is a weapon of mass destruction. It is no longer an absence of sound, it is an active presence, a suffocating pressure that you cannot bear. Her silence is dominance, not inattention. It is a calculated move, a psychological checkmate. She knows that you will be the one to break it. And when you do, it will be from a place of utter desperation. You will approach her, a hollowed-out man, and you will say the words that seal your fate. I'm sorry. You might not even know what you're sorry for. It doesn't matter. You are apologizing for your existence, for the discomfort your presence is causing her. When you apologized without a specific, warranted transgression, you signed your unconditional surrender. You handed her the keys to your psychological kingdom and told her she was the rightful ruler. She tested you, and you failed, utterly. The battle was over. Anything that followed, the arguments, the eventual breakup, the public humiliation, was just the victory parade. This pattern doesn't just play out in romantic relationships. It is a universal dynamic of power. At work, your boss floats a terrible idea. The room is silent. You know it's a path to disaster, but you say nothing. You fear being seen as negative or not a team player. Your silence is a concession. You have just surrendered your professional integrity for the illusion of safety. A colleague takes credit for your work. You feel the fire of injustice in your gut, but you let it slide because you don't want to make waves. You have just taught them that you are a resource to be plundered. With friends, you are the one who always drives, who always pays, who always listens to their problems but never shares your own. You are seeking the validation of being the good friend, but what you are earning is not respect. It is utility. You have made yourself a useful object, not an equal. The fall is never visible. It doesn't happen in the shouting match. It happens in the silence that preceded it. It happens in the hesitation before you speak your mind. It happens in the yes you uttered out of fear, when your entire being was screaming, no. Now, I can hear the objections firing off in your mind. The programming is deep, but isn't it good to be kind? Isn't compromise the key to a healthy relationship? Let's dismantle this flawed logic with the precision of a surgeon. Kindness without a spine is not kindness, it is appeasement. And appeasement only ever invites more aggression. Compromise is a negotiation between two sovereign powers. It is not, and can never be, a series of unilateral concessions from the weaker party. You cannot compromise on your core principles, on your mission, on your self-respect. The moment you do, you are no longer compromising. You are capitulating. The goal is not to become a cold, unfeeling tyrant. That is the brute force of the insecure. The goal is to cultivate an inner state so solid, so rooted in your own purpose, that your kindness, your generosity, and your love are gifts you choose to give, not taxes you are forced to pay. You must be the source of your own emotional weather. Your calm must be more powerful than her chaos. Your silence must be more comfortable than her noise. This is the brutal reality. The world does not reward the man who is nice. It rewards the man who is effective. It respects the man who respects himself first. The respect you crave from others is a direct reflection of the respect you command from yourself, and you cannot command it when you are constantly seeking permission, apologizing for your own shadow, and calibrating your existence based on the emotional whims of others. You have been playing a game designed for you to lose, using a rulebook written by your opponents. No one is coming to save you. There is no cavalry. There is no external force that will restore your lost authority. The rescue mission must be launched from within. The first step was this diagnosis, understanding the precise mechanics of your failure. You must see the pattern in your past, not with shame, but with the cold, detached eyes of a strategist studying a lost battle. Every concession, every moment of validation seeking, every fearful silence was a mistake in your strategy. Now that you have the battle report, it is time to forge a new one. It is time to build the weapon. There is no going back to the weak man. That man was a casualty, a necessary sacrifice on the altar of your reinvention. He was executed in that boardroom, dismantled by her indifference, and his ashes were scattered by the winds of public opinion. To try and resurrect him, to piece together that fragile, validation-seeking creature, is not just an act of folly, it is an act of self-betrayal. The only path forward is construction, the forging of a new entity from the raw, superheated material of your own humiliation. This is not a process of healing. It is a process of demolition and rebuilding. The old, faulty structure must be razed to its foundations, and on that cleared ground, you will erect a fortress. This is your new command doctrine, the unshakable protocol for your psychological reconstruction. It begins with 3 directives, 3 non-negotiable orders you will give to yourself. First, cut the excess. Second, install the silence. Third, control the reaction. This is not emotional, it is tactical. It is the cold, dispassionate work of an engineer building a weapon. First, you will cut the excess. This is a complete and total purge. You will go through your life with the ruthless precision of a battlefield surgeon performing a triage. Every person, every habit, every belief system that contributed to the weakness of the old you is a gangrenous limb that must be amputated. That friend who offers platitudes instead of challenges? Excised. The social media accounts where you curate a life for the approval of others? Deleted. The comfortable routines that keep you stagnant and predictable? Obliterated. You are stripping your life down to the studs. You are removing every source of external validation because you are learning to manufacture it internally. This includes her, especially her. All contact is severed. Not with a dramatic announcement, not with a final angry text. That is the behavior of the old man, still performing, still seeking a reaction. You will simply vanish. You will become a ghost in a machine she no longer has access to. This is the first step to reinstalling scarcity. An object that is always available has no value. You have made yourself perpetually available. Your time, your attention, your emotional energy. By cutting off the supply completely and without warning, you create a vacuum. You force a reevaluation. Her subconscious mind, which had you cataloged as a predictable and low-value asset, is suddenly met with a void. This void creates a question, and that question is the beginning of your leverage. Second, you will install the silence. This is not the passive, fearful silence of the man who is afraid to speak his mind. This is an active, offensive silence. It is a weapon. In the past, her silence was a tool used against you, a cold pressure designed to make you break, to make you ask, "What's wrong?" Now you will wield that same weapon, but with 1,000 times more discipline. You will not respond. When the inevitable message arrives, a casual, "Hey," a question cloaked in nonchalance, you will see it for what it is. A probe. A test to see if the old, pliable man is still there. Your silence is the answer. It is a statement of power more profound than any words you could type. Every moment you do not respond, you are communicating that your focus is elsewhere, on something more important than her attempt to re-engage you on her terms. You are dominating the interaction by refusing to participate in it. Her mind will begin to work for you, filling that silence with possibilities. Is he angry? Did he meet someone else? Did he simply forget I exist? That last one is the most devastating. Your silence tells a story that you are the author of your own reality, and she is no longer a main character in it. Do not reconquer. Replace. Replace her memory of you with a sharper, more profound silence. This is the foundation of your new frame. When, and if, you choose to re-engage, the interaction will be minimal and utterly unpredictable. You are a phantom, a brief, data-driven communication about a logistical necessity, a chance encounter in public where you are cordial, detached, and the first to leave. Your interactions are no longer a source of comfort or validation for her. They are a source of uncertainty. You are a puzzle she can no longer solve because you have changed the shape of all the pieces. You are polite, but distant. You are warm for a moment, then immediately cold and focused on your objective. This unpredictability short-circuits her social programming. She cannot categorize you, and therefore, she cannot control you. You are no longer the pleading, predictable man. You are an unknown variable, and the unknown is always perceived as either a threat or a source of immense power. You will be both. The third directive, controlling the reaction, is the internal component that makes the external tactics possible. While you are implementing the scarcity and the silence, you are engaging in a total war on your own internal state. You are training yourself to become a master of your emotional chemistry. The burning need for her approval, the sting of loneliness, the pang of nostalgia. You will observe these sensations as a scientist observes data. You will not act on them. You will let them pass through you like a storm you are watching from behind reinforced glass. Your new mission is your sole focus. It is the total reconstruction of your value on the 4 pillars of hierarchy: the physical, the financial, the social, and the symbolic. Physically, you will forge your body into a weapon. The gym is your new temple. Every drop of sweat is a purification rite, washing away the weakness. Financially, you will become relentless. That failed project was a lesson, not a life sentence. You will channel every ounce of that humiliation into a cold, burning fuel for your ambition. Socially, you will build a new circle, not of sycophants, but of allies, men of purpose and power who operate on your level. Symbolically, you will master a skill, develop a style, and cultivate an aura of competence that speaks for itself. You are building a reality so compelling, so powerful, that the validation of any single person becomes irrelevant. This is not a hope. It is a plan. It is a strategic blueprint for the creation of a superior man. The old masters of strategy understood this. They knew that perception is reality, and that reality can be engineered. A man who begs to be loved will be discarded. The man who commands presence will be feared. And fear is a form of respect far more durable than affection. You will become the absence that has weight, not the presence that begs for attention. You will transform the memory of your humiliation from a source of shame into a source of fuel. It is the stone against which you will sharpen your new blade. The world broke the old you. Now you will show the world what you have built from the pieces. This is the doctrine of the new man you are becoming. This is the first day of your new campaign. If you are ready to burn the old maps and draw a new one, then subscribe to Psychological Dominion and activate all notifications to ensure you receive every strategic command. Press the like button as a sworn oath to never again surrender your power. And answer this in the comments with cold honesty. What is the single greatest weakness, the one piece of excess baggage from your old self that you will cut from your life starting today? Let the world bear witness to your first act of war. The transformation is not about winning her back. That is a goal far too small, a prize for the man you used to be. The objective is to build a kingdom so vast, a throne so high, that her opinion of you is a faint whisper from a distant land you no longer have any interest in visiting. The pain of your past is not a scar to be hidden. It is the foundation of your new citadel. Every sleepless night, every replay of that dismissive glance in your mind, every echo of their laughter is a brick. You will take these instruments of your torture, and you will use them to build your fortress. Inside these walls, you will not be safe. You will be dangerous. You will be disciplined. You will be the architect of your own reality, the master of your own frame, the silent, unshakable center of your own universe. Your reconstruction is a declaration that you are no longer a player in someone else's game. You are the game itself, and the thirst you feel now, that burning in your throat, is not for her validation. It is the thirst for absolute, uncompromising psychological dominion, The fortress is complete. The walls you built from the bricks of your own humiliation are now unbreachable. Within them, you have forged a new kind of silence. It is not the silence of fear, the empty space where a man is afraid to speak. It is the silence of gravity, the immense pulling force of a star that bends light and time around its core. It is the silence of a king on his throne, who does not need to raise his voice because his presence is the only statement that matters. You have moved beyond the need for their playbook, or even your own. The questions were a training regimen, a scaffold to build the structure. Now the structure stands on its own, and the scaffold has been kicked away. You are no longer reacting to the world is reacting to your absence. And then, it happens. Not in a boardroom, not in a calculated confrontation, but in a place of your own choosing. A gallery, perhaps, where the sterile white walls and overpriced art serve as a backdrop for the real masterpieces of social maneuvering. You are not there to be seen. You are there on a mission, cultivating a new alliance, speaking a language of quiet power with a man who recognizes it because he speaks it himself. And across the room, you see her. The architect of your public execution. The woman whose dismissive glance was the catalyst for this entire war. She sees you. There is a flicker in her eyes. Surprise, confusion, perhaps a flicker of something else. Something she herself cannot name. The air crackles with the potential for drama. The old you, the ghost of the man who was executed, would have felt a surge of adrenaline, a cocktail of fear and rage. He would have seen a target. He would have started running through his playbook, searching for the perfect question, the perfect line to dismantle her. But you are not him. You look at her. You see her. Your mind, now a cold and perfectly calibrated instrument, registers the data point. Enemy combatant, former threat, current status, irrelevant. There is no spike in your heart rate. There is no clouding of your judgment. Your expression does not change. You hold her gaze for a single, surgical second. Not with anger, not with challenge, but with the flat, emotionless curiosity of a biologist observing a specimen under glass. And then, you turn away. You don't dismiss her. You simply deprioritize her. You return your full, undivided attention to the man you were speaking with, your voice never wavering, your focus absolute. You have not ignored her. Ignoring is an act that requires energy. It acknowledges the existence of something worth ignoring. What you have done is far more devastating. You have erased her. In that single moment, you communicated that she does not exist on your plane of reality. She is a ghost from a past life that no longer has any claim on your present. The game she was expecting, the confrontation she was subconsciously preparing for, never materializes. You have denied her a stage. You have denied her the satisfaction of a reaction. Her power over you was always predicated on your belief that her opinion mattered. By demonstrating, with absolute finality, that it does not, you have rendered her entire arsenal obsolete. She is left standing there, a queen with no kingdom, a judge with no authority. Her mind will now do the work for you. It will spin, trying to reconcile the trembling, broken man she executed with the cold, immovable object she just witnessed. The silence you have deployed is not an absence of sound. It is an active, crushing force. It is a statement that says, "The war you think we were fighting is over, not because I won, but because I have moved on to a conflict so far beyond your comprehension that you are no longer even a strategic consideration." The chessboard was not just flipped. You melted down the pieces, walked away from the table, and bought the entire building. This is the final doctrine of power. Revenge is not a hot-blooded act of retribution. That is a peasant's game. True revenge is a cold, silent, and indifferent state of being. It is the complete and total obsolescence of your enemy. It is achieving a level of success, power, and internal validation so absolute that their existence becomes a footnote in a book you have long since finished writing. You do not climb the mountain to show them the view. You climb it because the air is better at the top, and from that height, you can no longer even see the valley where they still reside. Respect is never given. It is never earned through pleasing others. It is imposed. It is a consequence of your absence, a byproduct of your discipline, a shadow cast by the sheer scale of your purpose. They will not respect the man who begs for their approval. They will respect the man who is so consumed by the construction of his own empire that he has forgotten their names. Let them watch from the sidelines. Let them whisper. Let them wonder how the man they broke became the force they cannot comprehend. Your legacy is not written in their validation. It is carved into the world by your actions, by the empire you build. by the unshakable calm you project in the face of chaos. You are no longer the storm. You are the eye of the hurricane, the quiet, still center around which the entire world spins. If you are finally ready to stop playing their game and start building your own reality, then this is your armory. Subscribe to Psychological Dominion, activate all notifications to receive every strategic directive, and press the like button as a final salute to the weak man you are leaving behind forever. And answer this in the comments with absolute clarity. What is the one relationship in your life where your complete and total silence would be a more powerful statement than any words you could ever speak? The day she starts to doubt the man she thought she broke is the day you will have already forgotten she ever existed.